Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Shouting into the Void, a weekly series where myself and Liam, again, I'm pretty sure he's this side, maybe, we discuss Doctor Who, specifically the new stuff, at least the stuff that I say new, specifically the stuff that came from 2005 onwards, which unfortunately isn't quite as new as it once was. You know, but it's fine. We power through. Currently, we've seen series 1, series 2, series 3, and we're now on series 4, episode 4. The Sontaran Stratagem, I believe, is how you pronounce stratagem. It's always been one of those words that I've looked at and gone, okay. Yeah, this is the first of a two-parter, which sees the return of the Sontarans to Doctor Who. They've yet to make a reappearance since their classic Who adventures. They've had a little bit of redesign, but they're still doing Sontaran things. They're still not nice. They're pretty.
They have a catchphrase now.
They have a catchphrase. They're a little bit sassy.
And they've gone for a bit of colour.
Yeah, for them. Nice. That's a little blue, little bit of blue.
Little blue.
Yes, they will come face to face with our TARDIS group, which is officially the Doctor and Donna. However, Martha Jones has joined, and Freema gets the credit. I believe she does, doesn't she? In the opening credits, she's there.
She does. Yes. Yep.
Which I'm sure won't happen again this series. Definitely not.
Definitely not.
No, definitely not. But yeah, it's good to see Martha.
I mean, everyone and their mum gets a credit here in the series.
Yeah, I think they do it to make a kind of point in that one, but yes. Martha returns and she's bringing with her unit the Unified Intelligence Task Force. Again, something else that had only been briefly mentioned in New Who, but was a big part in Classic Who, specifically the third Doctor's run, obviously. And yeah, they just have to figure out what's going on. There's some people dying in some cars, and they all have in common this atmospheric system that means they're carbon neutral. Is Greta Thunberg's dream for that no carbon is created from these cars, and you get a free sat nav. So I'm sure, as would happen in the real world, to be honest, everyone would accept this with open arms and say, yep, fine, that makes perfect sense.
Climate change politics in my Doctor Who.
Unbelievable. But yeah, so
2008.
Effectively, there was no climate change in 2008. What are you on about?
No.
Yeah, they just need to figure out why are people dying in the cars with Atmos? And then it all unravels from there. As I mentioned, it is a part 1. So we will be looking at it through the lens of we don't know what, even though we do know what's going to happen, we don't know what's going to happen because we look at the episodes individually, and we took the decision in series 1 to do the individually rather than as a story. So we can criticize and, maybe give some positive aspects to this episode for things that may end up being the opposite in part 2. But that's just the way it goes. So what did you think of the episode overall?
I really liked it, actually. I was pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed it. I think I just couldn't remember a lot of part 1. So I was like, what happens in this? But yeah, I really enjoyed all the cast. I like to say Martha again. I liked the reintroduction of Unit, the Sontarans, all of that. Maybe I'm just feeling emotional today, but Donna and Wilf reuniting made me cry.
Fair.
Fair. That was fun. That was just so good. But yeah, for a part 1, I also especially enjoyed it, I think. As they had, I think it was just nicely split up with lots of different sequences and stuff. There's a lot of good character moments in there. And yeah, I didn't really know what to expect going into this one, because I've always looked back on the story as a whole like, yeah, it's fine, but I wouldn't rush to rewatch it. I always found there's just so much build up and it's so slow in part 1, but I didn't really feel that this time. So that's good. That's fun. I think this is a rare occurrence where I've actually liked it more than I thought I would. Normally, my expectations are met on like, no, this is terrible. Oh no. So I like it when this happens. This is fun.
Yeah.
As you know, it's still just it's a good episode, but it's not like one of my favorites of all time or anything. But I think it's a very solid part one. They do a lot of good stuff in there. I think there's some emotional moments, there's some funny moments, a lot of cool visual stuff. But yeah, I was very, very pleasantly surprised by it.
Excellent. That's good. It hit my expectations. I think it's probably safe to say. I've always sort of I do like this two-parter, and I did like this episode, but I think this is definitely one where the second half will probably be better than the first for me.
Yeah.
As you just mentioned, I did feel it was a bit meandering and a bit kind of like, come on, let's get to the big thing that's going to happen, that's going to make part two a big event.
Yeah.
There are some good moments in this, don't get me wrong. I like a lot of the things they put in it. But there are just some times where it's a bit like, come on, yeah, we've already seen somebody go into a river. We don't need to see it again. Let's keep moving along. And I get sometimes they have to do that.
I do think. Yeah, I think this was aided by the fact that I probably haven't seen this since 2008.
Yes, I have seen it a fair bit.
Yeah, like if I'd watched it multiple times by that point, I'd have been like, yeah, it's just your average story, it's fine. But because I really didn't remember a lot of it, I'm like, oh, okay, this is all right. So maybe that is kind of coloring it a bit. But
yeah, that would make sense, because I have seen it I haven't seen it in a while, but I've seen it a fair bit. I used to watch it quite a lot, I think, when I was younger, because it has a lot of things that I really like in it. But we'll come on to my sort of main issues around it, and what I do like in a mo. So as with all the episodes we review, we tend to do 3 positives and 3 negatives. We always start with the positives. I'm going to go first, and my first one is Donna / Catherine Tate. Mainly the character of Donna. I feel in this one, she is incredibly independent, and that's so refreshing to have in a companion, that she can just be like, wander off and figure out what's going on, and then come back and be like, you guys are idiots, I found it. And I thought it was great. And the fact that she sort of had she knew that she wanted to go home, and she wasn't going to be like swept away by the doctor, and she wasn't just going to go with him because she feared that she'd miss out. She knew what her priorities were, which I don't think we've necessarily had in the companion before. And it helps that Martha's come in and said, hey, be careful. I think that's a different dynamic as well.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, as I think we mentioned before, with Donna being an older companion, a more mature companion, you see that kind of with her first interaction with Martha, where they're almost instantly friends, and Donna's like, trying to get all the gossip and that kind of stuff. Whereas previously, as is hinted at in this, we've had Rose be very spiteful, I think, when a previous companion has been met. So it's good to see that contrast. Again, I think Catherine Tate does a great job. There are quite a good few comedic moments in this, especially when the doctor's like, oh, you're leaving? Oh, but we've only just started. And she's like, you're a fucking idiot. I'm not leaving. I just want to go home for a minute. I really
doing a going home fake out for the 3rd episode in a row, folks.
Exactly. And I also like that she stood up to probably a very powerful military general, and was like, excuse me, I'm just a random person, but give me a salute, please. I think she really stamped her sort of authority on the episode. And I think it just sort of adds to the whole, Donna's probably the best companion we've had, in terms of like a rounded character, for the past 4 series. And I can see why she's most people's favorite companion for Russell T Davies, and in this, I think she does an excellent job of staking her claim. So what is your first positive?
Mine is Christopher Ryan as General Stahl.
Oh, interesting.
He's so good as the Sontaran, and I'm so mad they only bring him back in the Pandora Opens after this, and he's not like in it loads and loads. But yeah, I think he's fantastic in this. Just the commanding presence I think he has such a good voice. I'm jealous of his voice, even when it's just, you can't see his face and everything when he's got the helmet on. even his physicality, I think, is very commanding. I think he's very well written as a Sontaran anyway, so that also is going to help on a base level. But he really does kind of make some of that work. Some of the comedic lines, I guess, like, what does the temperature have to do with all the, he sells that very well because he just plays it straight. And
is that a reference to my height?
Is that a reference to my height? Short answer. Hilarious.
Love it.
But yeah, I just think he's such a fantastic kind of actor to get in as a Sontaran. I think he just nails it from start to finish. And yeah, even when he's under all that makeup and stuff, he's very expressive and everything, which is very well done. That helps, I think, just because the design of the makeup and everything is also very good, which I will talk about soon. But yeah, I thought he was a fantastic kind of one-off Sontaran for this story, I suppose. And yeah, I'm mad we didn't get that much more of him after this story, but we did get a bit.
Yep.
So yeah, he's fantastic. Probably my favorite Sontaran actor outside of the original guy in the Time Warrior.
Fair enough. That's understandable, and that does kind of lead me on to my second positive actually as well, which is the Sontaran design / reintroduction. Obviously you look at the Sontarans from Classic Who and they're very rustic. Is that the best way to put it? Rustic?
I don't know.
Ugly.
What you want to say about them.
Their makeup obviously is, although it's good, it's not as good as it can be, as we've seen in Doctor Who, in New Who, with cat people and all that kind of stuff. So they really threw everything at the Sontaran design, I felt, for this one, from their armor to the way they look when they take their helmets off, complete with the little hairy eyebrows that sometimes they have.
Yeah, the hair's good.
And yeah, I thought they looked great. When I saw them when I was younger, I just had a fascination with them. I thought they were like just excellent to sort of just
they were
as
just
a villain.
so sexy.
Yeah, as a villain, like, oh, look at those Sontarans.
Look at those curves. Look at that curvy head.
Look how thick that boy is.
God.
But yeah, I thought they were great. I thought sort of the way they were introduced, although they're Sontarans, but sort of you hear the voice and you see the fingers first before they appear, and then there's a nice close-up of the eyes before you see the full face later on. I think it does a good job of teasing what they look like, even though I'm sure by this episode aired you already knew what they look like.
Yeah, I remember the promotional image.
Yeah, so it doesn't really make much of a difference, but also they feel like they're a threat almost immediately, with killing somebody just by being like, yep, okay, their car's gone, we did it, see you later. And then they incapacitate 2 soldiers, then they clone someone, and then they start to poison the world. It's like, oh, okay, these guys seriously mean business. Even when the Doctor sort of disarms one of them and knocks them out, you still get the sense of, well, they're going to come back and they're going to be really pissed about that, and you're going to pay for it. And in fairness, he technically should. They pretty much had him. Even when the Atmos system, freaked out, he did almost die in an explosion. So, but yeah, I thought they were great, and a really good villain to reintroduce to New Who. And obviously, I look forward to seeing them again in the future when they turn up, and to see how they progress in the next episode.
Indeed.
But yeah, they're great. Hello everyone, sorry, there's some technical issues, nightmare. Anyway, Liam's here with his second positive. Go ahead.
I am. This was technically my third, but it's a lot more relevant with what you were just talking about. But I was wanting to shout out the Sontaran makeup because I think they also look great. I like the little hairs. I think it just looks like I feel like I know what it would feel like to just touch it, which I think is kind of gross. A sign of good alien-y makeup.
Yeah.
And yeah, it would be gross. But yeah, obviously we only see it on 2 individual actors, like the actual makeup itself. But I think it's a very cool design. Somehow sleek, but they've kind of kept the messiness in with the additional hairs, which is a weird thing to say. Doctor Who's weird. But yeah, I really like the design of their faces in particular, because the classic series, yeah, they're very limited by that, and the Sontarans did look worse and worse with each appearance in the classic series. So it was good for them to get a proper revamp look, much more faithful, I guess, to their very first appearance, in terms of like the shape of their head and all of that. And yeah, I just really enjoyed that particular style choice. I don't like that they're all short. I'm classic purist in that sense. I'm sorry, but in terms of the actual face design and everything with that, the makeup I think is excellent. So shout out to that because they do look great.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it helps that it feels modern while at the same time paying tribute to where it sort of came from. Which is good. That's always what you want to see in a redesign of a monster. And we get that even more when they reappear in Flux as well. If anything, it's a little bit more original in Flux, I think. It's in it.
Yeah.
Like refers to the original. But yeah, I think they look great in this. My third positive is sort of the reintroduction and use of unit as well. I thought they were used very well in this. I think it was just good to see a unit in action, like properly in action. Because we, as somebody that didn't watch Classic Who, we were told in 2005 that unit was this big intelligence organization that was always like fighting monsters and aliens and stuff, but you didn't see that. Whereas in this one, you see sort of what their day-to-day life is. I also think the uniforms look great. They're very iconic. I thought, the
berets and everything.
Cool. Colonel Mace is excellent. I thought he's performed very well by the actor that plays him. And yeah, I just think their use in this was great. It made sense that they'd be investigating it because it was this global thing, and it was a very well done reintroduction. And again, similar to the Sontarans, it pays homage to where they came from, saying that the Doctor's still on their books in terms of he never resigned when he left back in the 70s, or was it the 80s? It's great stuff to see, and I kind of wish that they were in the show a bit more than they have been. I feel like they've been used very sparingly, really throughout the show. They get appearance here in this series, a little bit with Kate Stewart in Matt Smith's sort of last one, and Peter Capaldi's bits, but then again, that's more Kate Stewart than unit. So I feel that they're ripe for coming back, and they were established to be coming back in the Flux, I guess, or at least they were put back in place. So maybe there's more to come, but yeah, I just liked seeing it's the world building. I liked seeing that there was an organization that continued to fight aliens. As Martha said, when the Doctor's not there, somebody has to be there to clean up after it. And yeah, they were great. I really enjoyed them. And hopefully they don't get beaten like nothing in the next episode.
Oh, poor Private Ross Jenkins.
And Colonel.
If in the chat in advance.
To be fair, I don't think Colonel Mace dies, does he?
No, he doesn't. No,
he does get revenge. Yeah,
he gets a kiss from that blonde woman.
Oh yeah, I remember now because they took off his hat and he's like, oh yeah, I remember. That will be next week, but we'll be sure to mention that.
Spoilers. Yeah.
So what is your?
Oh yeah, that'll definitely get mentioned.
What is your final positive?
Yeah, you kind of briefly mentioned it when you were talking about the Sontarans, but it's the opening sequence with the car, with Yumiko from The Walking Dead getting drowned. Yeah, that sequence has stayed with me since 2008. That was like the one thing I properly remembered in this.
Yeah.
Because I just thought, what a horrendous way to go, and I thought that was really dark for Doctor Who to actually do that. And,
also dark because it was night.
Yes, thank you for that. Esteemed criticism. That's the critique criticism. People come here for.
It was an insight.
Was it? Insight's supposed to be insightful, but okay. Yeah, I think like the idea of, they've just played into the idea of like sat navs being creepy and the voices being creepy and all that, which I think was a cool idea anyway. But then just like hijacking the car, there's nothing you can do about it unless you're the doctor and tell it to do the opposite. But yeah, just that whole thing when she's just like screaming, trying to get out, and like there's just nothing she can do, and then the shot of it just going in. Oh, I just think it's really dark, and that really messed me up as a kid. Like, oh my god. So yeah, that's always stayed with me as like one of the big visuals of the Russell T Davies era for me, that scene. And I still think it's very impactful. All these years later, I feel so bad for that poor woman. Like, oh my god, what a way to go. Hopefully they fished her out by now. But yeah, I really enjoyed that sequence as well. Very, very dark.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And again, it plays on the thing that Russell's era did very well, which was making something, normal and that people use every day sort of be turned against you with cars and sat navs. And if anything, it's scarier now because sat navs tend to be built into the cars. So they could easily rehash this story, but with something else and being the sat, because there's more than 800 million cars in the world now. Even when they said that statistic, then I was like, oh, really? 2009, only 800 million cars? That seems like an awfully low number for 6 billion people or whatever it was at the time. But hey, that's fair enough. I do think the opening sequence is quite it's quite the cold open, I think, and it sets up the episode quite well. Even if the sort of cars, everyone dying at the same time is kind of just the MacGuffin that gets everyone into the episode. It works. It works very well. So my additional positive is all the puns that's used in this. Obviously the short ones with the unit soldier, they're fine, but the best one is obviously where they're in the car and he's like, oh, it drives me round the bend just as they turn the corner. That's stayed with me since I've seen that episode, and it's great. I love it so much. And then there's obviously David Tennant's intruder window one, which is also excellent.
Van Stat will be proud.
Yeah, exactly. I just, I do think the comedy in this one was very good. Especially the puns, and I'm always a sucker for puns, so I was always going to appreciate it. But have you got any other additional positives you want to hit on?
Just the Donna Wilf reunion scene that I mentioned. I love Wilf so much. All those interactions between the Doctor and what's Donna's mum's name? Sylvia. Like all of them like bickering near the end was fun. But particularly I thought Catherine Tate and Bernard Cribbins were great when they saw each other in the street. The only reason it's not like one of my main positives is something you messaged me about, which is flashbacks as she's walking down the street. We will come on to that. If you were going to use flashbacks, I think maybe some for Martha would have made more sense. And these have been the last 3 weeks that you're showing up. We know. Strange. But that's why it didn't make like a proper positive. But I wanted to shout out that scene because the acting alone I thought was brilliant in that. So
I quite liked the fact that it now means the family are aware of what's happening. There's no more secret about it. I like that Sylvia had the reaction because of course she's gonna have that reaction. Last time she saw this man, a wedding blew up. I also like the explanation we got for Wilf not being there with the Spanish flu or whatever it was. And then obviously we get the nod to Wilf and the Doctor already meeting and them having their nice little reunion, and making a point of saying that we didn't name him. We didn't name him anything. He wasn't named.
We didn't name him in the episode itself.
Wasn't so named. It's fine. We can go back and change that. It's good. But I also want to mention there's a nice little foreshadow for the finale, when he's like checking out the gas thing. He specifically says it uses a temporal pocket. It's 1 second out of sync with the rest of time. And I was like,
I noticed that.
I know where that's going. And I'd never noticed that before, but I've sort of went, oh, that's a nice little bit of a foreshadowing little put in there.
That's where the script thought, oh, that's a good idea. Finale time.
Yeah, he was reading the script and went, that solves a problem I've been having for 3 weeks.
My writer's block is good.
Oh, what a miracle. But yes, we unfortunately do have to go on to the negatives because that's just the way this thing goes. So my first one is kind of I just feel it's a bit naff. The Coeur d'Alene signal the thing that makes guns not work.
Okay.
Like, if that exists in this universe, why doesn't the Doctor just have a device that does that? Why can't the Sonic do that? If the Sontarans can just do it, why not that? And then why don't the Sontarans ever use it again outside of this, these episodes?
Yeah, of all the races that would use it, the Sontarans are probably bottom of the list because they like fighting and stuff.
Yeah, it feels like it doesn't
them.
make sense for them. I get it. It's just a way to be like, that's why they didn't shoot. I guess they're soldiers. Why didn't they shoot in? Whatever.
The story would have been over very quickly.
Yeah, but like then in that case, just have like a bullet, bounce off them. But then you can't have the unit. It doesn't have the same weight as the unit soldiers fighting them at the end. The next week, and then even then they come up with some bullshit that's like, oh, we found different bullets, and it's like what? So yeah, it just feels like it's a cop out. It's like a world breaking. Like if this was a game, that's a world breaking mechanic. You couldn't have this because then the Doctor could go into any solution that had guns and gone, okay, done. Nobody's fighting anymore. Let's just sit down and talk. Obviously, not every alien race uses guns or uses copper bullets, but it would still solve a lot of problems in like historical episodes when humans are using weapons. Thinking of the Ice Warrior episode on Mars, I'm pretty sure all those soldiers had like muskets and bullets and stuff. You could have easily solved situations there. So it just feels a bit unnecessary. It's just one of them things that comes in. It's like, oh, we've got this, and then just goes away and never comes back again, which Doctor Who is famous for. But I'm allowed to be annoyed at it when it happens because that's why. Like the Reapers. This is the Reapers all over again. Just why don't they come back? What's the point?
Stahl could have just walked in and just immediately like paralyzed them with the thing that he does anyway. And they drop their guns. Sorted.
Well, yeah, exactly. But never mind. So what is your first negative?
I feel, it's the grand return of Martha, but I feel like she's quickly sidelined for an clone plot. I'd rather see the real Martha if you're going to bring her back into it, not make her be not seen a single horror movie following these things. Don't get started on the acting, because as soon as the next episode starts, it's a completely different clone character, basically. She performs completely differently. Maybe it's direction or something. I mean, that's a negative for next week. But I think it's just a shame that we have some really nice interactions with her, the Doctor and Donna in like the first half of the episode. Some I'm not as keen on, which I will talk about. But then, it's just very silly marches off with these guys. And then she's just immediately sidelined, and I'm like, I'm not excited for Martha to be back if this is what you're going to do. Like,
just going to put her to sleep. I don't
showing
care.
Look how much she's changed, and the Doctor's changed her for the better and everything. She's doing some good on the inside. Well, apparently not, because she's bloody useless if she did.
Well, I mean, technically, spoiler for next week. Technically, she does do good by stopping launching the missiles. So,
well, yes, but that's the plan.
But
that's the Sontans don't want to die. But I feel like it's just a bit of a shame that she's very quickly taken away from the characters that she bounced off of really nicely in the first half. And it could have been really great to explore more of her character. But instead, for most of this story, she's going to be a clone, which I think is kind of a shame. But there you go.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I think that, that kind of ties into mine is the sort of the clone aspect of things. The clone and the mind control, let's say, aspect of things in this plot. For a warrior race that prides themselves on battle and the face of war and the face of death and that kind of stuff, they're using a lot of sneaky tactics.
I don't think it's quite in character for them, really.
No, they've got mind control 4 people. Well, I guess it's implied they control the whole workforce.
All the Atmos workers, yeah.
And then they obviously mind control the 2 unit soldiers, and then they clone Martha. And it's kind of like, you got very lucky that your unit came to this area specifically to find you, to use to discover the clone thing, so you could find the one person that you needed to clone to get into their high ranks. It just feels like it might have made more sense if, and this comes onto I'm jumping again, this comes onto my third one, it might have made more sense if Luke Rattigan was someone in the unit that had teamed up with the Sontarans rather than be separate. Maybe he was a disgruntled unit scientist that created this thing that sold it to somebody on the down low, and the Sontarans were using it, and then they were like, I know, I can get a unit to come to this factory so that you can do something. I don't know. But
yeah,
it feels like it's just a bit unnecessary. It's like they had Freema for these episodes and went, I don't know what we're gonna do with her. It's good that she's back, but we're gonna give her a nice little clone plot so we don't get any good moments. I mean, I could change next week because I think we do get a little bit more of normal Martha. But yeah, I get your point, and then that leads on to my scaredy tactics. Basically, I don't feel are in the Sontaran's rule book, and then also Rattigan, I'll come on to now. I just think he's a bit unnecessary. He's not likable, which I know he's not supposed to be likable, but he's so unlikable. It's not like he's unlikable in a good way. He's unlikable in a I don't want to watch him kind of way.
Yeah.
He's just very petty. I get it's all part of the point, but he's just a bit as a character, especially considering he's technically like the villain of the piece. He's a human villain of the piece. Other than the Sontarans, he's not compelling. We've had this issue before with the show where the human villains aren't very compelling. See last week for a prime example. And yeah, I mean, he might redeem himself in part 2. I might turn the page on him when he gets comeuppance.
Yeah, I think he has actual stuff to do in the next one. Yeah,
but he's just a little bit. It's the point, but I don't like it, and I don't have to like it. We've had bad humans be likable, like Roderick in series 1. He's an absolute dick that you hate, but you love to hate him. Whereas this guy is just like, it just feels like another generic, I'm evil because nobody likes me kind of thing.
Yeah, and I'm so clever.
I prefer my villains to have a little bit of depth. Thank you.
Yes.
But yeah, so in that case, what is your second and third positive negative?
Yeah, you just rallied them off there. Yeah. Well, my second one, I do kind of feel the cliffhangers a bit. It's not my favorite.
Oh, Wilt's in the car. Okay.
Oh no! Look at that pile of bricks right next to them. Just smash it. But fine. We need to. Sylvia has an axe in the next one, so that's fine. So I'm just like, why? There's solutions right in front of you, and because we don't even know exactly what the gas is doing yet, I'm like, well, what's the threat? I don't know what it's doing. Like,
oh no, it's carbon.
It's making people cough. I'm bloody used to that in the past 2 years, so it doesn't matter. So that's a bit strange, and. Luke joining in with the Sontar, and there's just so much. Oh, I hate it. I don't mind Sontar when they're just like when it's sparingly used every now and again. So obviously they've only just introduced it now, so they can put it on posters and shit. But that when they're just doing that, I'm like, this is going on way too long. And then Luke joins in. I'm like, oh no, please make it stop. Make it stop.
I did put Rattigan is too keen to get involved. Is my line when I saw that.
He's so desperate for some friends, isn't he? But,
literally.
I'm not big on that either. I was just like, this is a bit silly now, guys. I'm like, pipe down. They're like, oh yes, we've won because we've activated half our strategy early because the doctor turned up.
Yay!
Look at us. Hooray.
We did it.
So yeah, I felt like that's not my favorite cliffhanger, and that whole build-up I think is a bit silly. And then my third one was I feel like they do force a bit of conflict with the Doctor and Martha at points. That feels a bit forced to me, especially from the Doctor who did himself work for UNIT for like years. And it's like, oh, guns, no, bad. I know that happens. Like generation to regeneration, they have different opinions and stuff. But I do feel like that whole little disagreement the Doctor and Martha had felt a bit forced to me. Especially because they very quickly just come to an understanding like this is just there because the episode needs to be a bit longer, I feel. So that was strange. And, as funny as the Dr. Donna scene was, where Donna was like, I need to go home and everything, I do feel like that goes on for a bit long. And because we've done that for the previous 2 episodes as well, that Donna wanted to go home and like, actually, no. I'm like, okay, I don't think these guys read each other's scripts, which I guess is fair enough. But it just feels like that loses something a bit, even when it is just a joke. So there's a few like forced conflicts in there that I'm like,
Yeah, I did put at one point that I think that the Doctor's a bit too harsh on Unit. Especially when like General Mace is like, oh, what's going on? How can we help? It's like, fuck off. I don't want you late. And he's like, oh, sorry.
You're not the brigadier.
Yeah. So I'm like, it's a bit unnecessary. You don't need to be that harsh. Like, if you're that first, just leave. Let them sort it themselves. just go.
Mate.
But yeah, and I thought that, and then especially because Martha's like, oh, he's a nice guy, and Doc's like, yeah, but guns. It's like, I get it, but the amount of people you kill, man, you don't have a leg to stand on. Come on, you're literally in the next episode gonna blow everybody up. So what are you complaining about?
The episode after that, you pick
up
a gun.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. You killed a whole city in the second episode. Come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's fair enough. So some additional points I had is that, as we mentioned, the flashbacks. I remember thinking at the time, and I wrote in my notes, where is it? When no Tom flashback, we've grown as a show, and then I've
smash cut,
and I put flashback road is not needed, because I thought, when introducing Martha, I thought they'd have like a flashback to her and Tom to say, this is who Tom was, because people, you might have missed his name was Tom in that episode, because I think it's mentioned like maybe once.
Yeah.
So you might have missed that. But then to have Donna walk down and we just see episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, and it's like, we've literally just seen this. We don't need to see this. It's just padding for the episode so she can take a nice stroll. Like, oh, I've been away. Like very big main character vibes from Donna when she's walking down.
Yeah, it was very strange, that choice.
Yes. However, on the other side of things, an additional sort of late positive, I did quite like that the general was kind of like being a mentor to Ratigan, and I might have preferred it if there was a bit more of that, because we'll come on to it next week, but then maybe certain things that happen may have a bigger impact than what they do. But I did like the fact that Ratigan was obviously quite desperate to have this acceptance from someone, and he found it there, and the Sontaran seemingly feel the same way about him. I would have liked that to be explored a little bit more. But what can you do? It's fine. Have you got any other negative points you might want to hit on?
I don't think so. I did kind of struggle to come up with some proper solid ones. So
same.
I guess that's a good thing.
I mean, yeah, most of mine are a bit nitpicky, to be fair, but especially the Corderline signal. That's quite nitpicky, but it just annoyed me. It just hit me when I was sat there. I was like, this could solve so many problems. So many.
Yeah.
But never mind. And with that, in that case, what are your fun facts?
Fun facts. This is obviously the first appearance of the Sontarans in the revived series, first appearing in The Time Warrior in 1973 into 1974, because it aired over Christmas and New Year. My favorite classic series, serial, so watch it. Sarah Jane's first appearance as well.
I do quite like them. When I was younger, I entered a competition in Doctor Who magazine, or Doctor Who Adventures, I think it was. It was around the time this came out, actually, which makes sense, to win the Sontaran Classic Who Sontaran box set, where it had all the episodes on it. You had no, because this was before emails and before phones and texts and stuff, so I had no idea I'd won until I got picked up from school one day, and my mum went, "What? There's a package waiting for you at home." And I was like, "Oh, I might have won a competition." And truth be told,
that's cool that you won one.
Was the Sontaran box set, and I was like, "This is great. I never thought I would win this."
That's cool. I've never won any of those fuckers.
I remember I won 2 things when I was younger, and that was where my luck ran out. I won the Sontaran box set, and then I won a Game Boy Advance.
Oh, wow.
Both from magazines, I think, that you could enter online. But yeah, and then I watched the Sontaran box sets. That was my first exposure to Classic Who, really, was the Sontarans, which is probably why I have quite an affinity to them in this episode.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But yes, anyway.
So yes, that was their first appearance, and their last appearance before this was the 2 Doctors in 1985, which isn't so great. Martha last appeared chronologically in the tortured episode A Day in the Death at the end of her 3-episode stint on that show. So if you wanted to see more of her before this, check that out.
Yeah, I mean, those episodes are okay.
I'm sure they're fine.
They're-
I'm sure
they're-
they've
they're
aged
not
particularly
as
well.
bad as they're not as bad as other Torchwood episodes. And Martha is a welcome addition to the team, and obviously it has pretty big implications for a main character in Torchwood in that episode, obviously.
Yes.
So yeah, go check that out.
Indeed.
As long as you're over the age of 18, you need to be old to
Yes.
watch Torchwood.
You must be very old, especially episode 2.
Yeah,
Bloody hell.
yeah.
God, I was allowed to watch about 5 minutes of that episode in that first
Yeah.
ed.
Oh,
But there you go. Helen Rayner was initially reluctant to come back to write the story after reading online comments about her Series 3 Dalek two-parter, which we also had a few choice words about. Russell T Davies convinced her not to take the comments too seriously. So obviously, she came back. And I think this is an improved effort so far. So well done, Helen. And yeah.
good job, Helen.
Yes, it was never a personal attack, let us be known. I mean, it probably was to the people online, but they're assholes. So the Doctor Who fandom are awful. The mobile phone company O2 later released an Atmos sat-nav phone, possibly inspired by this story.
Possibly inspired.
Possibly inspired on the hype of this story.
Right, sure.
Yeah, this is the first time the Sontarans are portrayed as shorter than normal human stature. UNIT now stands for Unified Intelligence Task Force, whereas in the classic series, it was the United Nations Intelligence Task Force. This followed a request by the UN shortly after the series returned in 2005 to change the name. We don't want to be noted and affiliated with this.
Don't put us in a silly kids sci-fi show. We don't
How dare you. The cloning vat is a redressed fountain from the fires of Pompeii. The table used to hold Martha in when she's being cloned is reused from the tortured episode Cyberwoman.
Yeah, I thought
and
that was.
The headgear she's wearing is from the tortured episode Sleeper.
Oh. Do you reckon she took them all home with her, and then she's like, "Oh, I've got a prop I could use for this," and she brought it
yeah,
back out.
There you go. This is the only story featuring Donna's family not to be written by Russell T Davies, and I think Helen does a good job writing the characters. So well done.
Yeah.
Cloning was originally going to be a much more present part in the story, with all the Atmos workers actually being revealed to be clones.
Oh.
Russell T Davies felt the clone idea was more effective in small doses, which led to the introduction of the Clone Martha plotline.
You should have done it other way.
Never mind. What can you do? The story also originally involved a new kind of chimney attached to every home, which cleansed the atmosphere instead of the Atmos device. Obviously, this was changed, and I think that's probably for the better.
Yeah, not everyone has a.
What are these new chimneys?
Yeah,
that would have been a bad Christmas.
And as both of us live in flats, we would definitely have a chimney. So
yeah, definitely. Luke's surname was originally going to be Marlowe, a reference to a young fan that Helen Rayner knew, but they obviously changed it because fuck that young fan. You're not getting your reference. And then finally, on Friday Night with Jonathan Ross, when Catherine Tate was interviewed, she revealed that she didn't realize the Sontarans had actors inside the costumes until an actor revealed his real face during a break in filming. And it absolutely terrified her. She thought they ran on electricity. So there you go. Good old Catherine.
Well, I guess that's
#1 Doctor Who fan.
I guess that. Does that mean they were good at acting or bad at acting?
I have no idea. I just love the idea that she was like messing with them, like thinking they were just like robots in there, just like, and then just during a break in filming, like took their helmets off, and she's like, "Oh God." She's just there sticking her finger into the project.
Oh God!
And meanwhile, this guy's like, "What the fuck is she doing?"
God, she's Catherine Tate. I can't say anything. I'll get kicked off.
Don't move.
Oh God. Never mind, eh? Excellent fun facts, as always. That leaves us with one thing left to do. Rate the episode. What are you giving it out of 10?
I think I'll go for 7.5.
Interesting.
I think I just preferred it to Planet of the Ood, maybe.
Yeah, I didn't even see what I did for Planet of the Ood. Let me have a look. Yeah, okay. A 6.5 for me. I gave Planet of the Ood a 6, and I do think this was better, but there are some issues, and it's a little bit slow, and I just don't think it doesn't grab you straight away. So, again, a good episode of Doctor Who at 65%. Well, for you, it's 75%. Oh.
Yeah, look at me.
But yeah, and then that means that next week will be part 2, The Poison Sky, which will see the Doctor fighting gas. And the Sontarans controlling the gas, but
He
maybe
has
the gas.
indigestion.
Yeah, he needs some heartburn tablets.
His most powerful enemy yet, irritable bowel syndrome.
But yeah, I mean, from what I can remember of it, I quite like it. I think it's a lot more action orientated than this one. There are some good emotional beats, I think, especially with Ross Jenkins and Will from Sylvia
Ross.
trying to survive, and even maybe Luke Rattigan at the end. I think that's quite a nice, hard-hitting moment. But naturally, I'm sure there will be moments where we go, "Oh, that wasn't as good. Oh, the Valiant CGI hasn't held up as good as we thought it would." In broad daylight. So, what do you remember of the episode?
Yeah, I think I remember enjoying it more than part one, so we'll see if that holds true or
You'll
not.
hate it now.
Probably not. I think I'm going to prefer. I genuinely think I might prefer part one now, because that's just going to be the way it goes. But yeah, I think there's a somewhat decent resolution, I guess, to the Martha clone plotline. But also, the Doctor just knows it was her the second he sees the clone. So
he smells her. He's like, nope. Apparently, that's it.
Bloody stink, Martha.
Yeah.
And then she's revealed to be the real Martha, and he's just being horribly rude.
I'm pretty sure that's in Day of the Doctor they do that.
Yeah, it is.
That's literally.
That is literally the joke.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I enjoy it and how things kind of get resolved, and Luke kind of do something clever, Luke, and then he does, I guess. Ooh. Well, he just hijacks what the Doctor's already doing. And that's not really something clever, but it's fun. It's fun. Yeah. He dies. It's fine. And yeah, I look forward to Martha just having a nice conclusion to her arc. She gets to go home to her fiance. Nothing gets hijacked, and the hand starts bubbling for some reason.
For reasons
explained in episode 6. For plot reasons, because she was contracted for like 5 episodes this season. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing how it all unfolds. Again, I haven't seen this story in so long. There's probably a lot that I've forgotten. I do remember the "Oh, you're my mummy" reference, which is fun. But yeah, hopefully I'll enjoy it at least as much as I was pleasantly surprised by this first part. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the most I'm looking forward to is the general going, "Face me, soldier," and the Sontaran going, "Ah!" and then getting shot. Just going, "Dong," and then just falling like flat back.
And of course we're going to get Rose on a screen.
Oh yeah.
And
God, yeah.
Back of the neck. And you've got 3 fingers, because that works. Just doing that.
Oh, hey, Dan did it without even being prompted this time. It's like, oh yeah, all right, that makes sense.
Yeah, well, Dan is more powerful than any of us could possibly imagine.
So. True, especially when he's evil. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, it will be back. It will be, better than we always hope. It will be better than we remember. And we're getting ever closer to the middle of series 4, which means we're getting very close to the finale, which means we're getting even closer to David Tennant leaving. There's
what on earth?
6, 12, 15-ish episodes left for David Tennant.
There can't be that many, can there? No.
Until our second regeneration. Heck. I know, it's madness, isn't it? Cool, and then we're into Matt
Smith. Until my boy.
And then for me, it's going to get even weirder because I've seen less of Matt Smith as often as I have. The more we go into this, the less likely I'll have rewatched the episodes. So, so as soon as we get to Peter Capaldi's ones, it's going to be, what's going on? This isn't good.
I'm pretty sure I've never seen this one.
I don't care about the moon being an egg. What's this about? I do care about the moon being an egg. It was wrong. It shouldn't have been done. It's just been forgotten as well. It's never brought up again. What's the point? It's just
there was no point in that.
But yet, for some reason, people can't just accept that the flux will never be mentioned again. Just let it go. Doesn't need to keep coming up.
Doctor Who's canon is pointless.
There's no point. It's just ridiculous. Just let it go. Just watch the episode. Unless it's a 2-parter or they specifically link it to a previous one, forget everything else. Easy. Just leave it.
Donna can do it. Why can't you?
God,
gonna be sad.
But yeah, we get close to that as well. But yeah, that will do it for this week. We will be back next week, I believe, for the second part of the episode. If you've enjoyed this one, by all means, let us know what you thought of the episode. If you think Martha was underused, let us know. If you want to see her come back later on, which I'm sure she will, also let us know. And yeah, yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye.